What's up, guys? So Lenovo recently sent over their latest iteration of both the Legion 5 Pro, which I have here, along with the Legion Slim 7. And I recently did an overview video really comparing and contrasting those two laptops. But today it's time to take a deeper dive into the Legion 5 Pro. Now, before we jump into the performance and details of this Legion 5 Pro, let's first go over its specs. So this model has a Ryzen 7 6800H, an RTX 3070 Ti, 32 gigs of 4800 megahertz DDR5 memory, along with a 1 terabyte SSD, Wi-Fi 6E, and kind of all the bells and whistles when it comes to some of those added accessories. But you can spec this machine in a lot of different options. You can get that Ryzen 7 6800H, or you can go with a Ryzen 9 6900HX. And the main difference between those CPUs is a few hundred extra megahertz of performance under boost. And from the GPU side of things, you can go from a 3060 to a 3070, all the way up to the 3070 Ti that we have in this model. And all of those GPUs are definitely not power limited, with the 3060 able to draw 145 watts under boost, and the 3070 and 3070 Ti both able to take in a whopping 150 watts of power under load. So you're definitely not going to be power limited when it comes to this machine. It also comes with a 300 watt charging brick, so you're able to get the maximum of performance out of all of the hardware. And you also get an 80 watt hour battery to power all of that hardware when you're on the go. And when it comes to the screen on the Legion 5 Pro, we get a 2560 by 1600 display with 165 Hz refresh rate, a peak brightness of 500 nits, Display HDR 400 certification along with Dolby Vision. It's also G-Sync and FreeSync compatible. Overall, it's a really, really nice display that's going to allow you to take full advantage of all of the other hardware in the Legion 5 Pro. So now that we have all the specs out of the way, let's jump into the real-world usability and performance of this laptop. So let's start things off with the actual form factor of the Legion 5 Pro. Now, it's definitely not a thin and light gaming laptop, coming in at 3/4 of an inch thick and right around 5.5 pounds. So Lenovo definitely prioritized performance over portability when it comes to the Legion 5 Pro, but that's just an expectation with this series of laptop. And when it comes to the actual cooling capabilities given to you by that thickness and the amount of cooling capabilities that you can just stuff into a machine this thick and this heavy, definitely does not disappoint. We're able to easily quench the heat that is being output by that Ryzen 7 6800H and the RTX 3070 Ti under peak load, both running Cinebench and Furmark at the same time. We saw right around 85 degrees Celsius on the CPU and a max hotspot temp on the GPU of right around 90 degrees C. Now, you may be thinking that sounds pretty warm, but it is well within the range of temperatures acceptable for both the CPU and GPU in this machine. And although we did see reduction in clock speeds as the tests went on, we still saw really good performance and really consistent performance over the length of the stress tests, which we'll get into later in the video. And when it comes to repairability and upgradability, the Legion 5 Pro definitely doesn't disappoint. You have full access to your SSD, so you can replace that or swap that out down the line, as well as both sticks of SODIMM memory, not soldered onto the motherboard, so you can definitely replace those or upgrade those down the line as well. But let's jump into some of the other functionality-based features of the Legion 5 Pro, specifically the keyboard and trackpad setup on this machine. The keyboard on the Legion 5 Pro is definitely one of the better keyboards on a gaming laptop that I have used. It has a nice 1.5 millimeters of travel on the keys, and overall it's just a really, really nice feel on this machine. You also have a 4-zone RGB backlight on the keyboard, gives you that nice gamer aesthetic. And although you might not be using the trackpad for those long extended gaming sessions, when you do need it, it is really nice. It's got a large size, it's smooth, it's accurate, no complaints when it comes to the trackpad or keyboard. But I definitely can't say the same for the webcam and microphone setup on the Legion 5 Pro. It's only a 720p webcam, the microphone array is decent. Overall, it just wasn't a prioritized feature for Lenovo when they were designing this device. But here's a quick audio and video test so you guys can at least see what it looks like and sounds like. And here is our 720p webcam and built-in microphone array. Overall, this is what you can expect for a 720p webcam. Not the clearest or the sharpest image, but overall it should suffice for the majority of uses. Now, a lot of the features that I've mentioned so far might not even matter to you if this is going to be your lone gaming machine, and it's going to be used more in a desktop environment than it is on the go. And in that case, one of the most important features is port selection. And you have ports aplenty on this Legion 5 Pro. So for ports, on the right side of the Legion 5 Pro, we have our electronic e-shutter to open and close the camera. We have our headphone and mic combo jack and a USB Type-A 3.2 Gen 1 port. On the left of the device, you get two USB Type-C 3.2 Gen 2 ports, so plenty of bandwidth on this machine. And on the back of the device, you get a Ethernet RJ45 port, a USB Type-C Gen 2 3.2 port, capable of both DisplayPort 1.4 as well as 135 watts of power delivery. You also get an HDMI 2.1 port, another two USB Type-A 3.2 Gen 1 ports, and then your power input at that full 300 watts. So overall, a massive amount of port selection on this machine. You can definitely hook it up in a multiple monitor setup. You also have three Type-A ports, so you have plenty of additional bandwidth for gaming mouse, an external keyboard, external storage if you need it as well. You can hook it up and get the full 165 hertz or even more than that on an external monitor with both that HDMI 2.1 as well as the DisplayPort 1.4 over that USB Type-C port. So in that situation, you're definitely going to need enough performance in order to drive all of that hardware, and the Legion 5 Pro definitely doesn't disappoint in the performance department. So jumping into Cyberpunk 2077, we'll run a couple of benchmarks just to see how this thing performs, both on AC power as well as on battery. So we're running all high settings with DLSS turned on in balanced mode, and we'll see how well this thing performs. But you can already tell how nice this screen is. Like, the colors are super vibrant. You get 100% sRGB coverage with this thing. Again, you have the Dolby Vision. If you wanted to use HDR, you have that as well. Overall, like, the colors just look really, really nice on this display. And you can already see we're averaging, or we're sitting right around like 80 to 90 FPS, at least in this scene. And as it goes on, that trend will continue. And we'll get a final picture of the FPS at the end. But overall, this thing just performs super well. Again, all high settings in a game like Cyberpunk running on a 3070 Ti mobile. These are some really, really good numbers. You can see all the way up to 110 FPS in some of these scenes. And you also have a couple of different game modes or modes on this machine in terms of performance that are easily accessible through a keyboard shortcut. So you have whisper mode for purely just the lowest fan noise possible while keeping performance somewhat steady. You then have balance mode, of course, a mix between high performance and low noise. And then you just have pure performance mode, which is going to run the thing to its thermal limits, pump up that fan noise, but you're going to see the most FPS. And that's, of course, what we're running this test in. And here's a listen in to that fan noise. We can see we land at right around 90 FPS on average with a max of 140 FPS and a min of 61. So overall, a very nice showing from the Legion 5 Pro. But you can see after we unplug from AC power and we're running on battery, we're sitting right around like 31, 32 FPS. And as soon as I go and I reach behind to plug in the AC power, you'll see that jump up back up to like that 90 FPS mark. So running on battery life is definitely not key for performance when it comes to the 3070 Ti or this entire Legion 5 Pro. But if you're using it more in that desktop setting where it's more of your main machine, then you should be able to see that max performance. So overall, I would definitely recommend the Legion 5 Pro Gen 7. It is a desktop level replacement when it comes to a laptop. You're getting plenty of performance out of all the way up to an RTX 3070 Ti and Ryzen 9 6900HX. And even if you don't spec it all the way to the top, you're going to see some really nice performance because Lenovo is pumping a lot of power into this machine. You also get some really nice port selection, enabling you to hook up to multiple monitors, use an external keyboard, mouse, and even external storage. Overall, very few complaints when it comes to the Legion 5 Pro. but let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. Definitely get subscribed so you don't miss my full review of the Legion 7 Slim if you're looking for something a little bit more portable. And if you enjoyed the video, definitely give it a thumbs up, and I'll see you in the next one.